And we're live at Todd Capital headquarters. Welcome to Todd Capital headquarters, also known as Todd Capital Studios. We're doing some really cool things in real life. Really out here building a brand, building a financial services business, building a CPA firm in real time. If you guys don't know, this is Ms Marjorie, MLM CPA. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. Make sure you follow her on social media, Twitter. She's out there. She's a real seasoned CPA. She is a Christian woman. She is a woman of faith. She is a mother. She's doing all these good things, and she wants to bring that to your business. She's very detail-oriented, systems-oriented, and she doesn't let you get away with the nonsense. The reason why we're having this conversation is because she is in this phase of the accounting cycle where they're looking to do tax planning or tax returns or preparing for your tax returns. And people are hitting her up and they're lagging. Y'all be lagging. And it makes it difficult on her to give you guys the best service if you guys aren't following certain things. So we kind of want to talk to you about what even tax planning is, because most people don't know what tax planning is. We all know what write-offs are. We all know what tax returns are. We know what tax refunds are, but nobody really talks about tax planning. So I wanted to bring this information to you because I think it's really important. And we always talk about how the wealthy people don't pay money in taxes. It ain't by happenstance. Right. It's through planning stance. And so we're going to talk about some planning today. So this is the Millionaire Talk Show, Charles Oglesby, with special guest MLM CPA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, sir.
Make sure you're talking to the microphone.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So what is tax planning?
So tax planning is basically looking at your tax situation in order to pay the least amount of tax possible. So by planning, you are, planning like with anything. You're looking at where you are and where you want to be and what steps you need to take in order to get there. Right. So when you're tax planning, that's what you're doing. You're looking at the income that you have made for the year or what you anticipate making through the end of the year. Your deductions, your withholding, your tax payments, you're looking at all of those things to see, what your anticipated tax liability is. And then if there are any strategies that you can implement in order to pay less tax. And having these conversations with Charles, it's like, yes, we're December 13th and people are wanting to do tax planning. They're wanting to know, how can I save money on taxes? It's like, now is not the time to be asking that question. You should be really looking at that earlier in the year. Like as I'm looking at planning going into next year, it's like, I'm not doing tax planning in December. If we have been working together from January through, October, we're just not going to do it. Yeah. And working together doesn't just mean, oh, hey, you're my CPA. It's, I know what your books look like. We're reconciling your accounts. You have an accounting process going on where we're actively looking at what you have going on a month-to-month basis. Mm-hmm. It's no more of this, last-minute stuff. It's like we have to do better.
Wealthy people don't only look at their finances once a year.
Right.
You can't get wealthy if you keep your head in the sand. And then right when tax time pops up, now you start bringing out these boxes of papers like, oh, yeah, I forgot about this.
Right.
That's a recipe for being broke. So a lot of people might be broke because of how they are managing their business finances.
Wow. And
that could be the struggle that's hurting their business from growing and starting.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's the same thing that people say when it comes to personal finance. It's like, people, you may not be broke. You just don't know where your money is going. You just don't know where you're spending your money. So you could be making a lot of money, but if it's just going and you're not tracking it, it's like, how do you know how much you're making? Yeah. So you have to look at the numbers, and it's an investment. We think about bringing in the sales, doing the marketing, promoting. All of those things are important, but it's also important to know the numbers and know them early on.
Yeah. So what kind of businesses are you looking to work with in tax planning? I know that's a tough question, but
it is a tough question because when I started on social media back during the pandemic, so you figure I was working from home. And then, in the evening time, you look on social media and you see these people, you see people making a lot of money. Oh, I made $100,000 selling, options, or, oh, I made $100,000 in the stock market, or, oh, I just started my business and I hit $1 million, or, so when I first started, my whole goal was to help entrepreneurs that are just getting started, individuals that are just getting started in business, helping them to understand the basics, understand some tax planning, knowing that things are going to be different from 2020. So we were in 2020. So things are going to be different from 2020 to 2019. So that was my whole focus. Going forward, it's like, yes, I want to be able to help, smaller companies, but I also want to work with the companies that are willing to invest the money for the services that I can provide. How much further can you go if you pay someone to help you to get there? Right? If you're looking to make $1 million in revenue, you need to have someone that's helping you to manage that $1 million in revenue, because there are a lot of things that may come up, just looking at some things with some investment clubs, property taxes, just paying your taxes on time, estimated tax payments. If you don't make your estimated tax payments timely, then there are going to be penalties for that. If you don't pay your taxes timely, there are going to be penalties for that. If you don't file your tax return timely, there are penalties for that. How many of you out there that have started an LLC and have never filed a return?
Yeah.
Never. And in California, there's an $800 a year payment that's required. So we just, form an entity. Okay, I'm going to start an LLC, but you're not looking at the compliance requirements of it. Or yes, I want to grow my business, but, I'm not going to pay, $30 for QuickBooks. That's too much money, but I want to make $1 million. Yeah. I'm not going to pay $350, $400 for, an accountant to help me to manage my books. So going forward, that's my rant.
I would say two things that I think are important is it is an investment, and we as a community have to start seeing the leverage in what we're spending as opposed to the expense that we're making.
Right.
Because if you pay somebody $500 and they make you $5,000, was that really an expense? No, it was actually an investment. Because you took $500 and turned it into $5,000.
Right.
Or net $4,500. And so that's what we have to start looking at.
Right. And that's the same thing with tax planning. It's like you want to save money on taxes, but that it's going to cost you for someone to look at your books and to look at strategies and help you to implement those strategies. So you need to be prepared to pay for that. There are people that charge you for the tax plan, and then they charge you to help you to implement the strategies. It's two different things. But we get in the mindset of just, how can I save money? How can I just do it? Or how can I buy, we have to go to the G-Wagon. How can I just get my G-Wagon? We have to go to the G-Wagon.
Raphael said that a lot of people are teaching people how to get a bill. Like, their financial advice is like, go get you a $3,000 a month payment. I think another thing that I wanted to say on that, let me push this down real quick. There we go. I don't know how that got there. Another thing that I wanted to say is when you invest small, you earn small. And so when you try to get a discount on all your services and all the things that you're paying for your CPA, then you're going to get just as much as you invest. It's just the law of reciprocity. You get big if you give big. I didn't start making good money on investments until I started investing bigger money on my investments. Right. And so I would say the same thing is true with the CPA. If you pay well, Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes, but he's paying somebody.
He's paying somebody.
And that's a big part of the reason why they allow it, is because you stimulate the economy in some capacity. So they'll allow you to get a charitable donation contribution because you're helping do what the government would ordinarily be doing.
Right.
And so there's you have to look at the why behind all these different policies. It's not just like, oh, well, you get a tax break for doing this. It's like, well, why? You get a tax break for building low-income housing. You get a tax break for doing things of that nature, putting small businesses in the inner city. Like, the government can only incentivize you through taxing and spending.
Right.
They're either going to tax you or they're going to allow you to not be taxed.
Right.
That's their power. That's how they wield their power, and that's how they get things done. I learned that in constitutional law. When should somebody be coming to you tax planning, ideally?
Tax planning is generally done throughout the year. So you want to make sure that you have good records so that you're tracking all of your income and expenses, you're keeping your receipts, you're reconciling your bank accounts, your credit card accounts, you're keeping everything up to date. real time, right? Real time. So you should be making estimated tax payments. So that's quarterly. You know, there's one due January 15th, April 15th, June 15th, you know, maybe December 15th. But you want to make sure that you're on top of that. So it's not just something that you do December 15th, you're doing it all along, and you want to have time to implement those strategies. So even if say you're an LLC and you're looking to form an S Corp, you're looking to elect S Corp status. So what that means is that you're paying yourself a salary, right? Because that's a tax strategy. But you don't want to do that December 31st. It's like, how are you going to put yourself on payroll and say you paid yourself for the whole year on the last day of the month? You know, it doesn't even look right. So you want to be proactive. So I would recommend, you know, besides quarterly estimated, you know, reviews, looking at your estimated tax payments, that if you're going to wait to do your tax planning, October, November. So right after the October 15th deadline, you need to be contacting your CPA.
One of the things that is interesting, and I've experienced this, but we're telling people like, hey, tax plan, review all these things, and it's like foreign. But to other cultures, it's just what they do.
That's what they do.
So the firm that you were at, that's what they do. The big companies, the big trusts, the big partnerships, they literally have somebody for all these things.
All these things, right.
We're just trying to bring it to the peeps.
Right, right. And it's not just me. Every CPA that I know that's out there, you know, looking to help entrepreneurs to build their business, to be, you know, financially, you know, have a good financial foundation when it comes to the taxes in their businesses. They're saying the same thing. It's like, it's tax planning. It's working with this early, you know, it's developing that relationship, listening to what we say, you know, and another thing that I wanted to bring up too is like, my thing is I left corporate world because I enjoy spending time with my family. So it's like, I'm not going to be sitting up here on December 31st, during Christmas, trying to figure out your tax plan. It's not going to happen, you know, so people need to get that information in early. And that's the same thing when it comes to taxes. It's like, don't wait until the last minute, because your CPA, they're going to be tired. They're burnt out. You know, if you come seeing somebody the 1st of April and say, hey, can you file my tax return? You know, they're going to be like, okay, granted, you're still going to get a good quality product, but just look at the difference had you had that relationship and had implemented some things earlier. Yeah. It's just not the same thing. So even like now, it's just not the same thing. It's challenging to kind of pull everything together. You're not going to get a full, 100%. And that's just natural, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you had like any of those tips, like, oh, hire your children, or, oh, do this. And I think that kind of, I guess, culture that we have on social media, where you have people who are putting these tweets out like, all you got to do is hire your kid and pay him this, or all you got to do is buy this big G-Wagon and do this. I feel like that's one size fits all. Tax planning and accounting, and I don't think that's how it should work. And I think that's why you've never approached it that way. You're never just like spouting out just like little buzz words on the internet to kind of get the clicks, because you've had conversations with people where they'll come into you for a one-on-one consult, and you start picking in pride and you start seeing different things that maybe they were overlooking, and so they're over here spending more money than they should. And then also things that might not be generally applicable to the entire online community. And so it's important, because you might be missing out on stuff just by chasing what somebody else is posting, but then also you might not even be applying it correctly, because it gets very complicated and detailed. I have the experience and the degrees, and I'm over here just like, nah, just do it. I still learn stuff every day. It's definitely worth the money. So, and
it's not to say that those things can't be done. I mean, we talk about a family business. So we have a 10-year-old, she'll be 11. Okay, well, you're going to come and work for the family business, but what are you going to do? You're going to learn how to scan. You're going to learn how to file. You're going to learn how to, make copies. There are legitimate things that you can do to help your child, and pay them for those things. Your child may model for you, legitimately. So yes, you can pay them, and that is a tax deduction. But your whole focus should not be about trying to find the tax deduction. It should should be making sure that you're running your business like a business, making sure that you're taking care of, that you have the basics, a business bank account, all of your business transactions are going through your business bank account, run your business like the business, and all of those other things will come. Yeah. If you sit down and you tell somebody, hey, I have a legitimate business, this is what I'm doing, and then you just start having that conversation, it's like those things are going to come up.
Yeah. A lot of people, like, the term write-off is so, like, misused because it's not really a write-off. It's really like you're spending money and the money's gone.
Right.
And so we're looking and we're seeing like, oh, it's free money, but it's not really free money.
It's not, because it's money that's coming out of your pocket.
Yeah.
But like I was telling someone before, it's like, look at your business the same way that when you were an employee, right? You may go out to dinner as a company, right? And the company's going to take you guys out to dinner. So think of it like that. How would you feel if your company was doing something that you worked for, or if the government was doing it? Would you look at it as that's legitimate, or if it's them just somebody trying to get something?
Like what?
Like going to a fancy dinner,
right.
Spending $5,000 on a dinner, turning up, buying, I don't even know much alcohol, bottles, right? Bottles and top shelf, filet mignon, that may even be whatever. But, you're just doing something that's lavish and extravagant because it's a tax deduction, or it could be a tax deduction. But the government looks at things like that. It's like everything could be a tax deduction if it's related to your business. I was talking to someone that they were going to do mobile parties or like mobile picnics. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I was like, well, you probably need to, to carry stuff to the events that you're having, the places where you're having these events. I was like, well, that would be a good use of a vehicle, making sure that you have a vehicle that accommodates that type of, transportation. So it's just being reasable. All those things are, you can do it. You can write off meals, you can write off business travel, you can write off vehicles, but you just want to make sure that it's necessary, ordinary and necessary for your business. And every business is different. Don't look at it as, because my friend did it, I should be able to do it, because everyone's tax situation is unique.
Right. And that's what I was getting at is you can't replace an accountant with some tweets on the timeline. You need to actually book the consult, and they're affordable consults. It's an investment again, and really start digging into the details of your business and figuring out how you can do it better, how you can clean it up, how you can make it more efficient, because you're going to make more money that way. You're going to grow a stronger business that way. You don't want to build a house of cards that's on a bunch of just like tries and ideas,
right?
Because you don't want to become successful and then have that house of cards coming down. So. Right.
I was going to say something too, because I remember I was looking at a client's account recently, and they were paying like almost $300 a month for Zapier. And you guys may think that that's a little thing, but it's like $300 a month for something that you don't use. It's like that $300 a month could be going for something else. Yes, it's a business deduction, right? But you could be using that $300 a month for something else. So that's just a small thing of something that a CPA or someone else is going to see when they're looking at your books, when someone else is looking at your books, or they have multiple Adobe accounts, It's like, why do you have all these transactions coming out of your account, So
you got to have people watching your back. This is important because the book Rich Dad Poor Dad says that business and investing are a team sport. And so what does that team consist of? That team consists of your managers, your accountants, and your lawyers. And those are important because when you get those good people, man, you're not guessing. Sometimes I see something and I want to guess and I want to Google it because people think that Google is a replacement for somebody's education. Like, no. Like, I went to the doctor recently. And I've been Googling this thing and thinking about this thing. I walked in there. He looked at my leg for 5 seconds. He knew exactly what it was. He was like, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. He knew exactly what to prescribe. I wasn't over here guessing, like, maybe this will work. Maybe that will work. Maybe I get this cream. And so, like, these professionals are like doctors. She is an accounting doctor.
An accounting doctor.
These people are legal doctors who they can assess your situation in 5 seconds, something that you'd be mumbling over and stumbling over. So definitely book the consult. We already know she's adding way more value. Get her courses, get all her information. And we're going to be bringing you these things pretty often. We'll probably call it tax talk or something. Todd Capital Tax Talk. Something along those lines, because we want to continue to update you guys on all things tax. This time we want to talk to you about tax planning. We're probably going to be talking about the new Biden going into 2022, because we want to make sure that you guys are informed on all the new changes that are going on and Joe Biden taxing us into oblivion.
And then I also want to say, too, that regardless of the tax laws that are changing, you have to know where you are in order to know how to pivot. So it's like I think that's really important, because you were talking about that. Like, everybody wants to learn the new stuff without even learning the old stuff. So we got to figure out where we even exist in this current tax system to then be able to leverage the upcoming tax system. I'm just trying to get a P&L. Right?
Yeah, right. We got a lot of people who don't even got financial statements. They got a business. How you got a business with financial statements? That ain't a business.
And that one too, a lot of people lost out on the PPP loans and things like that because they were running a business, but they didn't have any records or any documentation to prove that they were running a business. They hadn't filed a tax return, under their business name or anything. So it's important, if you're gonna have a business, run your business like a business.
Run your business like the business. That's the motto of MLM CPA.
Run your business like a business.
In terms of tax planning, any last things that you want to leave the peeps?
If you are a business owner, if you're an individual, know what your income is, know what your, for a business owner, your deductions, have all your information together. You can always do a quick kind of evaluation of where you are and know what your estimated liability is going to be. Even just knowing what your estimated income is and knowing what your tax filing. So if you're an LLC, or if you're an S Corp, that information is good. Sometimes you can, we can do something on a quick phone call, but if it's involved, it's not going to happen. But book a consult, we can talk about it. But just know your numbers and go into 2022 prepared. So if you were a little bit behind for this year, what can you do for 2022 in order to make it better? Start out on the right foot. Get your accounting system in place. I like QuickBooks. I use Wave. I have used Wave for people, and I do, Wave is a free platform. If you don't want to spend the money on QuickBooks, you can always do Wave, but do something. Do something to track your income and expenses. Know what you have, know where your money is going, and at least have all your documents together. And no shoe boxes. We don't want shoe boxes. No shoe boxes.
Scan it in.
You can take a picture, put it in the QuickBooks app. You can take a picture, put it in the Wave app, save your receipts, but no shoe boxes. We are past shoe boxes. There's too much technology out there for shoe boxes.
You got Google Drives now.
Right. Too many different ways in order to gather your information and save it. So,
well, you guys can find her on at MLM CPA. Link in her bio for any consults, any courses, any of that other cool stuff. Hopefully you guys got some good information out of this. I'm sure you did, because we dropped a lot of gems and we dropped a lot of game, and we're going to be bringing you all this information. We're just going to challenge her. We're going to say, hey, what's the next topic? Where are we at? So we're going to be talking about bookkeeping. We're going to be talking about tax planning, bookkeeping, tax preparation, because you guys need to be updated on that, and maybe even some tax law related stuff. So the new tax laws, will just kind of throw that out there. So that's it for this one, and we out.